Hello students, I'm Anita Abraham, Associate Professor of English. Welcome to the English classroom. This is video number 5 dated 22/7/2020. Today's English lesson is from semester 3, Unit 4 of the General English curriculum prescribed by Osmania University for students of BA, BCom, BSc and BBA. Today's topic from Unit 4 is titled Vocabulary Idioms. If you like my video, please subscribe and press the bell icon so that you get notified of subsequent videos. Let's get started. So we are moving on to another component of vocabulary today, idioms. This is Unit 4 of Semester 3 of your General English curriculum. Let's start by looking at these two sentences on your slide. Uh, Look at the first sentence. In spite of all our warnings, he started chatting and let the cat out of the bag. Look at the phrase in italics. Let the cat out of the bag. In spite of all our warnings, he started chatting and let the cat out of the bag. Look at the second sentence. You can't cut down trees and complain about scanty rains. You can't eat your cake and have it too. I'm going to read both the sentences once again for you so that you are carefully observing the words in italics. In spite of all our warnings, he started chatting and let the cat out of the bag. Sentence 2. You can't cut down the trees and complain about scanty rains. You can't eat your cake and have it too. To let the cat out of the bag as a whole means to reveal something that was supposed to be kept a secret. That is, you're letting out a secret. You should not have told the secret. Similarly, in the second sentence, to eat the cake and have it too means you can't do two incompatible things simultaneously. So you can't have the cake and eat it too. You get it? Okay, and then the other phrase, letting the cat out of the bag, is to reveal a secret. Such examples in English, such phrases in English are called idioms. Such expressions are called idioms. What are idioms? Let's look at it so that it becomes clearer. An idiom is an expression whose meaning cannot be worked out from the words it contains. For example, if you go to the earlier side, let the cat out of the bag, and the chatting that was happening in the previous sentence has no correlation, the expression and what was happening in the first part of the sentence. For example, in spite of all our warnings, he started chatting and let the cat out of the bag. There is no correlation between the warning, the chatting, and let the cat out of the bag. And similarly, in the second sentence, we are talking about cutting down trees and complaining about scanty rains. And then you have this expression, you can't eat your cake and have it too. So, what happens is, an idiom, it is important for us to remember that idiom is an expression whose meaning cannot be worked out from the words it contains. An idiom is a group of words that have a fixed order, and as a group of words, as an expression, they have a meaning that is different from the meaning of the individual words in the group. It will become clearer as we look at some example. For example, if you describe a person as if you describe someone as a person who has both her feet on the ground, it means the person is sensible, realistic, and a practical person. Now, if you just look at the sentence, uh, I'm a person who has both my feet on the ground. So you wonder, yes, that's a normal thing. Everybody has both their feet on the ground if they're standing or even sometimes sitting. So what? but then it has got a connotation. It there is having both the feet on the ground has an idiomatic. It's an idiomatic expression that has a connotation, a meaning that conveys that the person is sensible, realistic, and a practical person. There's a lot of similarity and hence confusion between phrasal verbs, which we did in Unit 3, and idioms. Okay, so that's where the confusion arises often. But then with practice, we will know what are phrasal verbs and what are idioms and idiom or idiomatic expression. The essential difference between the two, that is phrasal verbs and idioms, is that a phrasal verb is a verb whose meaning gets modified by the addition of a preposition or an adverb or both, but still it functions as a verb. However, an idiom, on the other hand, is more like a saying. It is like a saying, it's, idioms and proverbs is what you usually say. It's an expression, a proverb that is specific to a culture. While a lot of idioms are formed using phrasal verbs, some of them are not. So many of the idioms have phrasal verbs in them. That's why the confusion. But idioms are also culture specific. Okay, so it is closely related to the culture, the way of living of the people. So that's why when we use idioms and phrases, we have to be very careful, because it has cultural connotation. And if you use the inappropriate, idiom, uh, it could lead to tension and create problems also. All right. For example, let's look at some more idiomatic expressions, and so you will get clarity between phrasal verbs and idioms. For example, let me tell you. Sorry, look at this. For example, tell me about your first day in college. I'm all ears. Now, I'm all ears. What does that mean? Or it's an idiom. All ears means ready and eager to listen, to hear to what someone has to say. Here it doesn't function as a verb. Okay, nor does it function as a verb, nor is it a verb. Here it is, oh, I'm all ears is an idiomatic expression. Okay, and it means eager to hear or listen. It is enough to remember that some phrasal verbs are idioms. Okay, for example, take a bitter fight. After a bitter fight, they decided to make up. So here phrasal verb make up means to reconcile, okay, or to end the disagreement, while others are not. Okay, please switch off the light and fans when you leave the room. Here switch off is a phrasal verb. Here make up, which is a phrasal verb, has idiomatic meaning. So some phrasal verbs function as idioms, some don't. Okay, so we need to know where they are used as idioms and where they are used as phrasal verbs. Similarly, some idioms are phrasal verbs. Okay, look at this example. She is a strong person. She will bounce back soon. Bounce back soon here meaning recover quickly. Okay, from something going wrong, from an illness or whatever, while others are not. I am all ears. I am all ears is not a phrasal verb, it's an idiom. Here, bounce back soon is a phrasal verb that functions as an idiom too. I hope this has made things clearer. So there will always be this a little confusion with idioms and phrasal verbs. But as you become more and more fluent in the language, and as you read and as you keep looking up at the dictionary, it will become very clear what are phrasal verbs and what are idioms. Some idioms function as some phrasal verbs act as idioms, and some don't. So these things will become clearer as you become more and more your accuracy and fluency in the language increases. Using idioms correctly and comfortably in your speech and writing shows that you have mastery and fluency in the language. So using idioms is it shows that you have reached a threshold where you are very fluent confident, you're very comfortable with the language, and you can use the right idioms and phrases at the right place. And what idiom does to your use of language or your communication skills is that it spices up your language, it adds liveliness to the language. And without using idioms also, you can speak good language, but then it is a little dull. But then you must remember, idioms have cultural context, so we must use it appropriately at the correct place. And you can't do an overuse of idioms also, then communication fails. So it is nice to use an idiom or two once in a while you're speaking, while you're writing, but then too much of everything is poison. So it's better that we use the right idiom and right in the right context, and in the most appropriate way. Knowledge of idioms is particularly important for understanding spoken English, especially in informal situation, because people often use idioms to shorten lengthy explanation. Okay, so somebody is not happy with their situation and are cribbing about, they are not happy with their present situation, and somebody else is doing very well and all. So instead of giving a lengthy comfort speech, the other person may just say the grass is greener on the other side, or the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. That is, in short, they are just telling you that what you don't have and what is across, what somebody else has always is more attractive. So having a knowledge of idiom, especially when you are speaking, it's very important that you can understand or comprehend what the other person is saying. However, it's advisable to avoid using idioms in formal context, such as academic, scientific, technical writing, because there you have to be very precise, you have to be concise and crisp in what you're trying to say. Idioms are spice up and are very lively, and especially in spoken or even creative writing, but not in academic writing. And remember, idioms are a feature of informal and colloquial language, and they are more typical of speech rather than writing. So in creative writing, yes, but not in academic writing. Okay. Moreover, idioms are culture specific. So if you read up the history of particular idioms, you will realize that it comes out of a cultural context. Okay, and so you need to be competent to know if it is appropriate to use certain idioms, because depending on the group that you are using with, and sometimes they do not translate very easily into a different language or cultural context, and they may not be understood by all readers also. Sometimes idioms if you overuse idioms, and if you use it inappropriately, they can interfere with the clear communication, because you are using it with a group of people who are not able to grasp the meaning of these idiomatic expressions, then communication fails. Therefore, you need to know your audience, with whom you're using it. And also in academic, scientific, technical matters, it is best that you are direct and transparent and not using these idiomatic expressions. So let's do some exercises from your textbook, so it will become clearer how to use idioms and what are some of the common idioms in the English language. So students, shall we start doing that? Let's move to exercise 1. Choose the directions are: choose the correct meaning of the idiom. So they have given you an idiom, they have given you 4 choices, and what we have to do is pick up the correct meaning of the idiom. So shall we do that together? Okay, so the first one is to pay through the nose. The idiom is to pay through the nose, and your choices are: doing something correctly or well, to pay more for something than its actual worth, to show your anger, to spend more time or energy on something than necessary. So what is the most appropriate here? To pay through your nose would mean to pay more for something than it is actually worth. So B is the right answer. So if you look up the cultural context from where these idioms come up, okay, you will it would be a very interesting story there would be behind each of the idioms. So do take time and look it up and understand where it is coming from. It is coming from a context, a cultural context, okay. To take something to heart, this is again another very common idiom that we use. Your choices are: a lot of worry or excitement about a situation that is not important; B, to not allow criticism to worry or upset you; C, to allow something to affect or upset you deeply; D, to start behaving in an unacceptable way. So what you need to do is, when it is not in a context, and it's like this in an MCQ way, a multiple choice question, so you have to carefully read each of your options and see what you think fits best. To take something to heart, C, to allow something to affect or upset you deeply. So that is the right meaning. The third idiom that we have is to not have the stomach for something. To not have the stomach for something. Look at your options. A, to be bored because you have nothing to do. B, to be born to rich parents. C, to exist with very little money. D, to not feel interested, strong, or brave enough to do something. Okay, so D would be the right answer. To not feel interested or strong or brave enough to do something. And this comes to not to have the stomach for something is when you are uncomfortable, you have this tendency to throw up. Okay, if something goes wrong, for example, whether it's a flight, if you're taking, you are uncomfortable, you feel nauseous, or you go on a roller coaster ride, you feel nauseous, you are upset about something, so you don't have the stomach for something, meaning you are not strong, brave enough to do it. You are uncomfortable. That is where it comes from. Look at the fourth one. The fourth idiom is on the rocks. On the rocks. And look at your options. In trouble, near failure or defeat; B, C, to do things in the wrong order; or D, to settle down or become established. What does it mean? On the rocks. What could it be? Yes, it can be A, in trouble. It can also be near failure or defeat. So both A and B are right, because it comes from the context of ships being washed very close to, in the olden times, when with the winds the ships would be washed very close to the shores, and there would be rocks. So then in trouble, the ship would be in trouble, or very close to, you're on rocks, meaning you're near failure or defeat, you're just giving up. So both of them could have, on the rocks could mean both these things. And it comes from the ship and from the olden times, where ships would run into trouble, would often get destroyed also when they hit rocks. Okay, that were close to the shore. Let's move on to 5. The idiom is to show someone the ropes. To show someone the ropes. Your options are: A, to annoy someone; B, to impress or influence someone; C, to put pressure on someone; and D, to show someone what to do. Again, this idiom it comes from the ship, and those kind of ship, boat, sailing kind of context. it means to show someone what to do. Similarly, in the olden days, you needed to pull down, haul the sails up and bring down the sails depending on the wind. So the sailors would, pull the ropes. You needed to do it with the ropes that were attached to the sails. So when you say to show someone the ropes, it means to show someone what to do. And again, it comes from the sailing, ship, boat context. So just look it up and it will have very interesting context. Okay, so when you come across an idiom, not only see what is the meaning of the idiom, but also read up what is the context. And it is rooted in culture, it is rooted in the people's history, and it is very, and it, you get to know so many interesting facts about the language and where it draws its resources from. Let's look at 6. Idiom 6 is to see red. I saw red. Okay. When I heard it, I saw red. What does it mean? We use it all the time. Look at the options. A is the small invisible part of a large problem. B, to become angry. C, to be suspicious of what you hear, to not believe everything you hear. Or D is to turn a small problem to a large one. To see red, which would be the right answer? To become angry, B. And again, this comes from the bullfighting. All of you all must have seen in Spain the matadors waving the red cloth and the bulls rushing out. So this idiom has its context from the bullfighting of Spain, the matadors, the bulls, the red cloth that is waved, and the bulls coming charging. So it means they become angry and they come towards the matadors, and the matadors step aside, and that's how the bullfighting goes on. So that is the context. Please look up and read. Every idiom has a beautiful story behind it. Look at the 7th one: to hold the fort. To hold the fort. I held fort, and saved the day. Thank God you were there to hold the fort. These are expressions that we use very commonly. So what does it mean? A, let's look at the option: to accept both the good and the bad aspects of something. B, to be experienced and good at something. C, to do a job for someone, example, while they were away or busy. And D, to make someone or something seem less good or important. What does it mean to hold fort? C, to do a job for someone, for example, while they were away or busy. Okay, to hold fort. I held fort when the class monitor was not there and took care of the discipline of the class. Okay, so you took care. Okay, the teacher left me in charge to hold the fort while she went to the staff room to attend an important meeting. You understand? Or when my parents were away, I held fort and took care of my siblings. So, to do a job for someone while they are away or busy. And again, this comes from history, where soldiers held the fort when enemies attacked them. When they, in the olden days, there were forts, and soldiers guarded the forts from the ramparts, and they would keep the invaders at bay, that is holding the fort. And when the fort was taken over, then the army was defeated. So to hold fort is to take care. Okay, when take care of the situation, that is what it means. Let's look at idiom 8: to lead someone up the garden path. To lead someone up the garden path, this again is a very common idiom. Let's look at the option: to be funny or ironic. A, B, to deceive someone, often over a long period of time. C is to embarrass someone, and D is to get out of control. So to lead someone up the garden path. Just look at that idiom and then look at the choices that you have. to lead someone up the garden path, to be funny or ironic, to deceive someone, to embarrass someone, to get out of control. So the most appropriate one here is B, to deceive someone, often over a long period of time. To put it in a sentence, let's say the contractor kept leading us up the garden path, saying that the building would be ready in 6 months, but it took over a year. So you are deceiving someone. Okay. The girl, the boy promised the girl that he would marry her, and kept leading her up the garden path and finally jilted her. Okay, so deceiving someone. Okay, that is what it means. You know, you are threading someone along, and then you don't keep your promise. So to lead someone up the garden path, that is what it means. Okay, now let us move to the ninth idiom, to get something off your chest. Okay, again, that is an idiom that's very commonly used. Let's look at the option: to do something that hurts yourself, to have many things to do or worry about, to relax, or to talk about something that has been worrying you for a long time. To get something off your chest. Okay, so there was a burden on your chest, and you are just putting it down. So what would be the most appropriate thing? To talk about something that has been worrying you for a long time. Thank God I spoke to you and got it out of my chest. It was weighing down. So there was a something that was troubling you, worrying you, and because you spoke to somebody, you have got it off the chest. When I told that what had happened to my parents, I got it off my chest. So you have confided in somebody, and you are no longer worrying about it. Now let's look at the 10th idiom. Again, a very common idiom: to take a leaf out of someone's book. To take a leaf out of someone's book. Let's look at the options: to be involved in something, to be sensible and realistic, to follow someone's example, or to look after someone, to take care of them. Now look at the options and look at the idiom: to take a leaf out of someone's book. C would be the most appropriate meaning: to follow someone's example. I took a leaf out of her book and decided that I was going to be serious about my studies. I took a leaf out of my parents' book and decided that I will be very careful about how I spend my money. That is to follow someone's example. Okay, so that is what it means. That is to copy someone, to role model someone. Take a leaf out. Take is like a leaf is not, the leaf is on the plant. You would wonder leaf how it came in the book, but then it also means a page. Okay, so that is what it is. You are following somebody's example. I hope now it has become clear, students, how idioms are different from phrasal verbs. Okay, so what do you call the expression or the group of words, like for example here, to take a leaf out of someone's book, has nothing to convey that it means to follow someone's example. This has come out of a context of the people that use the language, and it has become part of the language. It has become an idiom, a proverb, a saying, and it means to follow someone's example. So when you want to convey to follow someone's example, you can use this particular idiom. So you need to know the idiom and the meaning, and we have looked at 10 of them, and you cannot confuse them with phrasal verbs. Okay, so shall we move on? So I hope you have understood now what idioms mean. They are expressions that convey a deeper meaning, but it is not what is in the group of words that appear in front of you. Now let's move on to exercise 2 also, which is again matching the idiom in column 1 with the meaning in column 2. So this is again a set of 10 idioms which are very commonly used. So it will help you understand how idioms are important in enriching our communication, okay, and how beautiful it makes the language. And you must always remember, you would wonder why, what is the connection, but there is a connection when you go to the cultural context, because language is an expression of the culture of the people, and because English has adopted and adapted cultures, and there is an intermingling of culture, you will see there are idioms and phrases from a variety of cultures that English has come in contact with, and many of them are from the English culture itself, and French, German, or whatever, even that the English language has and the English people have come in contact with. Now let's do this exercise: match the idiom in column 1 with the meanings in column 2. So what we will do is, first let's just read the first idiom, and then look at all the options and see which is the one that fits it best. Okay, the first one: if something fits the bill. If something fits the bill, fits the bill. So let us look at what is that. Fits the bill. Let's look at all the options that are there in column 2. It has difficulties at the start. It isn't clear until the last moment who will win. They are in conflict. You manage your finances badly. It isn't what you believe in. It is difficult. You do it without hesitation. It is what is required. You show no reaction. It is punctual and regular. Something fits the bill. So it's H. It is what is required. Fitting the bill. It is correct. It is appropriate. It is what is required. So your the meaning is H. It is what is required. Let's move to the second one. If you do something at the drop of do something at the drop of a hat. Do something at a drop of the hat. That is, how much time does it take to drop a hat? It just goes there. So do something at the drop of the hat. The meaning is G. You do it without any hesitation. Okay. uh, uh, if there is a plan for going to the movie, we do it at a drop of a hat without any hesitation. You do it like that. Look at the third one. You don't bat an eye. Bat an eye is flickering your eyelid. So how long does it take to bat or flicker your eyelids? Okay, so obviously it is conveying something. Okay, so what could it be? You don't bat an eye. So you don't bat an eye, you don't show any reaction. That is, your face doesn't show any reaction, because you constantly closing and opening your eyelids, and you're batting it's called batting your eyelid, the movement of your eye. Okay, so if you don't bat an eye, it means you are not showing any reaction. Look at 4. If something has teething problem, okay, children have teething problem. It's the most difficult time when you're growing up, when they're babies, 1.5 years, and teething problem. So when the teeth is trying to, or the tooth is trying to come out. Okay, so if something has teething problem, what does it mean? It means A, it has difficulties at the start. Okay, it's a new business, so it has teething problem. That is, there are starting problems. Okay, I just joined college, so I'm having some teething problem because it's a new environment. So it is difficult, it's a new start, so there is a problem. Okay, look at the fifth one, idiom. People are at loggerheads. People are at loggerheads. So what does that mean? They are in conflict. They are fighting. Oh, those two boys always are at loggerhead. That means they are always fighting. They are in conflict. Okay. Now look at the next one. If something goes against the grain. If something goes against the grain, what does it mean? If something goes against the grain, E, it isn't what you believe in, okay? It is not something that you believe in. It's against my grain. It is not something that is, goes with your views, with your belief system. So, they say that it goes against the grain, okay? Now, look at the seventh one. You're penny wise, pound foolish. Penny wise, pound foolish. Okay, so it means you manage your finances very badly. That is, you take care of the pennies, the coins, but then the money you are not, the big money, the pound. Okay, so again, it's a very English phrase. Penny and pound are English currencies. You're careful with the small amounts, you are careless with the bigger amount. So that is, you manage your finances very badly. Look at 8. If a race goes down the wire, okay, a race goes down the wire, what does that mean? A race going down the wire, it isn't clear until the last moment who will win. Okay, so there is the ribbon, the finish line. So this is what do you call, appropriate with all sports, whether it is horse racing or running races. So it's a neck to neck finish, okay, photo finish, what we call now. So until the last moment, it is not clear. Until they hit the race, they reach the finishing line, you don't know who has won the race. Okay. 9. If something is like a clockwork, okay, if something is like a clockwork, what would be the meaning? It is punctual and regular. He arrives like a clockwork, so that means he's punctual and regular. The system works like a clockwork, so that is, it is very systematic, and it just happens when things have to happen. Okay, so that it means punctual and regular. And of course, the 10th idiom, something is no bed of roses. Okay, and I think everybody keeps saying life is not a bed of roses. So what does it mean? Roses meaning beautiful, comfortable. So if something is not a bed of roses, what does it mean? It is difficult. Okay, life is not a bed of roses. What it means is life is not always easy. There will be problems. Okay, so did you see the students how in exercise 2 you had 10 idioms, and then you had to match it with the meanings which were given in column 2. So you need to do it very carefully, and this comes with practice. Okay, so you need to look up, read, and then only will you be able to master idioms. And let's quickly review what we have learned in today's exercise and today's chapter, which was idiomatic expressions. What is an idiom? Now, I hope now it's clear. An idiom is a phrase where the words together have a meaning that is different from the dictionary definition of the individual words. A bed of roses. What does that mean? Okay, a bed of roses. Bed would mean something that you lie down in, and then roses are the flowers. Okay, so that is the dictionary meaning, but put together it means the idiomatic meaning is completely different. Okay, what are idiomatic expressions? Idiomatic expressions are used in communicating. These are useful when trying to convey a feeling or an emotion, and sometimes they are light-hearted and funny also, because like we said earlier, it is used in colloquial speech, and it has to do with oral communication. Now let's quickly look at some more idiomatic expressions so it becomes clearer for you. For example, a penny for your thought. This idiom is used as a way of asking someone what they're thinking. So somebody is in deep thought and you say a penny for your thought. Again, a very English idiom. Okay, a penny, again immediately taking you to the currency of the place, which is England. Okay, so if somebody is deep in thought, you can say a penny for your thought. What it means is, what are you thinking about? Okay, add insult to injury. Okay, so a situation is already bad and you make it worse. Okay, don't add insult to the injury by interfering, so the situation is bad, and you are not helping the situation but making it worse. Now, another very common idiom that we come across on news is once in a blue moon, when something happens very rarely, because always don't have blue moon. So again, it comes from context. Once in a blue moon means something that happens rarely. And I think you students must have heard it. If you are irregular to class, you come to the class once in a blue moon. Teachers have often told you that, yes or no? You don't meet somebody often, then you say, what do you call, oh, we hardly get to see you. You just come once in a blue moon. Okay, so very rarely. Another one, see eye to eye. Okay, which is very common. This idiom is used to say that two or more people agree on something. Okay, my sister and I see eye to eye on everything. My husband and I see eye to eye. That is, we agree on everything. Okay, when you say they don't see eye to eye, meaning they don't agree on it. Okay, so, and look at the fifth one. Hear it on the grapevine. Hear it on the grapevine, meaning it is, you heard, it's a, excuse me, it means to hear a rumor or something about something or someone. Did you hear it on the grapevine? That, and it's a gossip. It's something, excuse me, it's a rumor, a gossip about someone. Again, look at another ship, boat idiom from that context. Miss the boat. Miss the boat, meaning this idiom is used to say that someone has missed his or her chance. That is, earlier when a lot of travel used to happen in the boats, and then if you don't reach the dock in time, you will miss your boat. So it comes from that context. So if you miss your chance, oh, he was late to the interview and he missed his boat, meaning there was no boat there, he missed his chance to attend the interview. Okay, that is what it means. He put in the application late, and hence he did not get his admission and missed the boat, meaning he did not get his admission. That way. Look at some more common idioms and phrases to make it clearer for you. Kill two birds with one stone. This means to do two things at the same time. Okay, so you're killing two birds with one stone. So two things happen simultaneously at the same time. Look at this one, on the ball. Look at this idiom. When someone understands the situation well. I hope you are with me on this issue. I hope you're on the ball, meaning you understand the situation well. Cut corners. Okay, that let's cut corners. Okay, I don't think this is within budget. Let us cut corners. It means when something is done badly to save more, money, and it comes from the tailoring metaphor. Okay, stitching, tailoring, cutting cloth, that from there it comes. And the building is not up to the standard, or the building collapsed because the contractor cut corners. That is, he did not he did something badly. The building was erected badly, and money was siphoned off, and that's why the building came crashing down. Cut corners. Okay, so it is to save money, but in the process you are not doing something well. Let's look at some more, just to give you an idea of the idiomatic phrases and expressions, so that you don't confuse it with phrasal verbs, where phrasal verbs are may take on a preposition, adverb, a preposition and an adverb, but will function as a verb itself. But here the meaning entirely changes. To hear something straight from the horse's mouth is to hear it from the authoritative source. It is true that college is reopening tomorrow because I heard it from the principal, the horse's mouth. That is from an authoritative source. Okay, from the correct source. It is not grapevine. It is not rumor. Cause an arm and a leg. Okay, cause an arm and a leg. So an arm and a leg, both are something that you need, right? So when you say something costs an arm and a leg, it means something is very expensive. Yes, it's a beautiful car, but it cost me an arm and a leg, meaning I didn't give my arm and my leg to buy the car. It was very, very expensive. Now look at this one, the last straw. The last straw, it was the last straw that broke the camel's back. You know, you must have heard of that phrase. It means the last or the final problem, and that was the end, and that made the situation terrible. Okay, it was the last straw. I could not tolerate it anymore, and I had to dismiss my maid, or the student had to be expelled for bad behavior because what he did last time was the last straw. So the last bad thing that the student did was the last straw, the final problem in a series of problem, and he had to be expelled. Okay, so now why should we use idioms? So when we are wrapping up, let us quickly look at why we should be using idioms and phrases in our language. Okay, when we are communicating with others, why use them? Okay, we should use them because it adds life and it adds vitality to the to our communication skills. Okay, without idioms, language can be correct. Okay, you don't have to use it all the time, but and without it, language is correct, but then it can be dull. So it, you know, to spice up the language, to bring life and vitality, because it has cultural context. So if you use culturally appropriate idioms, the right idiom at the right place, then your language is going to be full of life, and it shows your fluency and accuracy in the language. And when you're able to use idioms comfortably in your speech and in your writing, not academic writing, in your creative writing, then you have achieved a higher mastery and fluency of the language. It is only people who have reached a level or a very high level of accuracy and fluency or command in their language can use idioms and phrases very, very comfortably. Okay, so it is very important that you in so students, when you are able to use idioms comfortably in your own speech and writing, then you have achieved a higher level of mastery and fluency in the language. So that's very, very important that we try to include idioms and phrases in our communication. Remember that using idioms correctly and comfortably in our speech and writing, not academic writing, okay, shows our mastery and fluency in the English language. Idioms add liveliness to the language. Of course, without idioms, the language can be correct, is correct, is accurate, but it will be a little dull. So spice up your communication skills with the appropriate, culturally correct use of idioms. Thank you so much.